All right, so before we move on, we first of all need to understand what actually Python is and why it is so popular. Okay, so Python is a high-level general-purpose programming language which has gained the rank of the most popular language due to its simplicity, readability, and versatility. And due to its flexibility, it enables us to learn and code Python. It's really simple and flexible to learn and code Python. Okay, now Python is used almost in every domain. It is used in web development, it is used in data analysis, it is used to compute some really complex scientific functions, it is used in artificial intelligence, it is used to automate stuff, it is used in game development, and it is used in building both Android and iOS mobile applications. So we can just say that literally Python is used in everything. Okay, so now let's just see some of the awesome characteristics of Python. So the first one is readability. So Python code is easy to read and write due to its clear and consistent syntax. It uses indentation to define code blocks, which enforces code for formatting and readability. Well, you just can understand it once we actually move on to the coding part, how it basically enforces code formatting and readability. The next one is the versatility. Python can be used for a wide range of applications, from creating web applications and games, conducting scientific research and data analysis. Its expensive standard library, its extensive standard library and a vast ecosystem of third-party packages make it suitable for a variety of tasks. The next thing is it is an interpreted language. So Python is an interpreted language, which means you do not need to compile your code before running it. This makes the development process really faster and more accessible for beginners. Now you're just going to understand all these characteristics as we move on in this course. The next one is the cross-platform compatibility. So Python is available on multiple operating systems, including Windows, the Mac operating system, and various Linux distributions. So code written in Python can run on different platforms without major modification, and that is, I would just consider as one of the major advantage of Python. The next thing is since it is a very popular language, so that is why it has a very strong community and support. So Python has a large and active community of developers which contribute to open source projects, create libraries, and provide extensive documentation. This community support make it easy to find help and resources when working with Python. The next characteristics of Python is that is an object-oriented programming language. So Python is an object-oriented programming language, which means it supports the creation and manipulation of objects, making it suitable for building complex and modular software system. Now we have covered object-oriented programming in this course, so you're just gonna actually understand these characteristics as we move on in this course in the object-oriented programming section. Okay, the next one is that it is an open source, which means that it is absolutely free of cost. So Python is an open source, which means that it is free to use and distribute. This encourages a collaborative environment where developers worldwide can contribute to its growth and improvement. So Python widespread adoption is due to its ability to balance simplicity and versatility, making it an excellent choice for both beginners and experienced programmers. Its applications span a wide range of fields and industries, from software development and data science to education and scientific research. So, yep, this is what Python is, and these characteristics are the reasons why it is so much popular. So now we will move on.
Alright guys, welcome to the very first video of this course. Now the first thing, before we move on to cover advanced topics in Python, you need to have a Python installed on your machine. So first of all, you need to download it. So open your internet browser that you have and go to this link python.org/downloads, and now you need to click on this option download Python 3.9 point something to download Python on your computer. Now make sure that you have Python 3, which is the latest version, and we're going to be using it in this course as well, because Python 2 is not used a lot anymore, and officially it is not properly managed by the developers of Python programming language. So download Python 3. So I'm not going to download it because I already have downloaded it in my computer, but in your case, just click on this option, download Python 3 point something, to download Python on your computer. So once you are done with the downloading part, go to the download section in your computer and start installing Python in your computer. It is actually a very simple process. Just click next a couple of times and it will be successfully installed on your computer. So once you have successfully installed Python, you can then start writing the Python code directly from your command line or terminal. But that will be a lot difficult and tedious. So what we're going to do is that we're going to install an IDE or integrated development environment where writing in your code will be at least 8,000 times more easier than writing your Python code in command line or terminal. Now you can choose any IDE like Visual Studio, Sublime, or even Notepad, but the one I'm going to be using is known as PyCharm. So if you also want to use PyCharm as well, then go to this link which says jetbrains.com/pycharm/downloads/#section equal to, well, depending upon your operating system, if you're using Windows, then you need to click on this option Windows, and if you're using Mac, then you need to click on this option Mac, and then similarly if you're using Linux, then you need to click on this option Linux. So since I'm using Windows, I'll just click on this option Windows. Now in here you can see that we have two versions of PyCharm available. The one is the professional version, which is paid, while the second one is the community version. So you need to click on this option download, which is under the community version, to start downloading PyCharm on your computer. Well, I'm going to be using the professional version because I love using it, but anything that we will do with the professional version in this course can also be done with the community version. Well, I'm using the professional version because I have to do some web related tasks in Python, but in your case, you need to click on this option download, which is under the community version, to start downloading PyCharm on your computer absolutely free of cost. So again, I'm not going to download it because I already have it on my computer. So once you have successfully downloaded PyCharm, then again go to the download section and start installing PyCharm on your computer as well. So again, it is actually a very simple process. Just click next a couple of times and it will be successfully installed on your computer as well. So once you have successfully installed PyCharm, then in here you can just search for PyCharm. So just click on this option JetBrains PyCharm, and once you open it, you should see a screen which looks something like this. Well, your screen might be a little different from mine because I'm using the professional version, but the basic idea is exactly the same. Now, the first thing we need to do here is first of all to create a Python project. So in here, just click on this option File, and then just click on this option New Project. And now in here, you can just name your project. So, well, you can just name your project anything you want, but let's say that I will just name my project as Python. And now in order to create that project, just click on this option Create. Well, I'm not going to create this project because I already have created one project named Python Tutorials, which you can see right here as well. But in your case, just click on this option Create to create that Python project. Alright, so once you create your Python project, you need to have a Python file inside it where you can just start writing your Python code. So in order to create that Python file, just right click on your project and just click on this option New. And now in here, you need to create a Python file. So just click on this option Python file. And now in here, you can just name your Python file anything you want. So let's say I will just name it as first video tutorial. And now just click on this option or hit enter to just create that file inside your project. So you have this project named Python Tutorials, and now inside that project you have this file named firstvideotutorial.py. Now in here you can just start writing your Python code, but we're gonna start writing our Python code from the next video. So if you have any problem installing Python or PyCharm on your computer, then feel free to contact me through email, and I will definitely get back to you as soon as I can. Now up to the next video, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
All right, so once you have your project, and then inside of your project, you have any Python file. Now you can name your project obviously All right, so once you have your project and then inside of your project you have any Python file, now you can name your project obviously thing which is already built into Python, what we call as the print statement to output something on the console window. So right in here, we're just going to type print, which is again so first of all, we have to execute this whole file main.py to see this output on the console window. Now, how we can execute our code? So in here, we have this thing what we call as run. So just simply click on it. And then in here, we have this option run and then the name of your file. Now, if your file name is different, then you're just going to see basically a different file name. So it is run and then the name of your file. So my file is named as main.py. So that is why I'm in here, I'm just seeing main. So I can either use basically click on it and then click on this run main, or I can basically on my keyboard, I can just press shift plus F10 to execute my file main.py. So let's just click on this option run main. So when I execute it, you can see that this console window appears. And in here, we're actually seeing this output, which is saying, this is my first Python code. So basically in here, inside the sprint statement, we have this thing. So exactly this thing is printed out right here on the console window. And then it's just saying that process finished, or in here it actually means the program finished with exact code 0, meaning that this program has been executed successfully. Okay, now this console window is just to see some kind of output. So in here, we are actually using this print statement to basically see this output on the console screen. So this print statement is used to print some kind of text or other kind of data on this console window. So obviously, when you're just building some real-time application, this is not the window that you want to see to output something on your screen. What you want is what we call as the graphical user interface to see your output, where we will have different kinds of objects like buttons, we will have labels, we will have different kinds of text, we will have different kind of high-level graphics. But for now, since we are just doing the basic part of Python, so while doing the basic part, we will be using this console window to output things on this console window. So this console window will be used to print such type of stuff, just like we have printed this thing on the console window. Okay, so this is our first program. So just remember that this print statement is used to print something out, to print some kind of text or some kind of other data on this console window. So this is our first Python program. And in the next videos, in the coming videos, we're just going to write down many complex and many advanced level
So
codes.
a
This is just the
variable is a
beginning.
name
So storage for data. That is, we can use variable to store any kind of information or data. Like for example, we can use variables to store goodies. All right. So now I'm going to be talking about what variables are and how it works in Python. So a variable is a name storage for data. That is, we can use variable to store any kind of information or data. Like for example, we can use variables to store goodies, visitors, and any other type of information or data that we want to be stored in a variable. So now let's just see how we can create variables in Python. Now the first thing we need to do is that we have to name our variable. Now you can name your variable anything that you want. Like for example, say that I will just name my variable as message. And now in order to store any kind of information inside of this variable, we have to use this equal operator. So the equal operator is used to store any kind of information inside of any variable. And now say that after the equal operator, we can just put any kind of information. So say that this information will be hello. So now in this example, message is the name of the variable, while hello is the value or information or data stored inside of this variable. Okay, so say that we have another variable with name, and then we're just going to store basically this value, which is actually the name of the user, John. And now say that we have another variable age, which will be equal to the age of the user, which is say that 20. Okay, so now message, name, and age are the name of the variables, while hello, John, and 20 are the values stored inside of these variables. Okay, so now we just try to print out message. So message previously was equal to hello. Now we just try to print out message. Now what Python will do is that it will just show the variable content. So in this case, it is hello. So just print out message. It will actually show this hello in the console window. Okay, now we can create variable in a single line. Like for example, say that we have a variable user equal to John. And now in order to create another variable on the same line, we have to use basically this comma. And then after this comma, we can just name our second variable, say that it is age equal to 25. And then in order to create another variable on the same line, we have to again put this comma. And then we can just name our another variable message and say that it will be equal to hello. So now similarly, we can also create variable on separate lines as well. But when we create variable on separate lines, we do not we do not need this comma. So say that we have a variable user equal to John, and then we move on to the next line. And now in here, see that we are not using any comma because now we are actually moving on second line. And now the second variable is age equal to 25. And then we again move on to the next line and now create another variable message equal to hello. So we can actually create variable on single line and separate lines as well. Okay, so consider basically variable like this. So say that we have a box and we're just gonna name this box as message. And inside of this box, we have some kind of information or some kind of goodies or some kind of data store inside of that box. And say that in our case, it will be hello. So we have a box with name message, and then in here we have hello stored inside of this box. Okay, so let's just see what's just going to happen if we just try to change information or data inside of a variable. So say that we have a variable message, and now message is equal to hello. Now in the next line, I'm actually changing the information inside of this variable message to message equal to world. So previously message was equal to hello. That is the value stored inside of this variable previously was message, but now I'm actually storing some new information or no new value inside of this variable message equal to world. Okay, now behind the scene, what Python will do is that it will actually throw out the previous information or the old information into the dustbin, and then we'll just store the latest information inside of this box. So now we just try to print out message. What Python will do is that it will actually print out, or it will actually show the value of the latest, it will actually show us the latest value that is stored inside of this variable message. So the latest value or the latest information that we have inside of this variable is world. So it is going to print out world because it has thrown out the old information or the previous information into the dustbin and then just stored the latest information inside of this box message or this variable message. Okay, so now let's just see how we can actually copy information from one variable and then store it inside of another variable. So say that we have this variable hello, and then the value inside of it is hello world. And then we have another variable on the separate line, message. Now message is equal to this variable name hello. So now basically what Python will do is that it will actually take this information, basically this value, and then we'll store it inside and we'll just put it equal to message. So message is actually equal to hello and hello is equal to hello world. So now message will also become hello world. So what Python behind the scene will do, it will actually copy this whole information and then we'll actually paste it or store it inside of this variable message. So now hello and message actually contain the same information, that is these two variable hold the same data. So now just try to print out hello and message, both will print out hello world and hello world on the console window. Okay, so there are some rules you have to keep in mind while naming your variable. The first rule you have to remember is that name of the variable must contain only letters, digits, or symbols, that is the dollar symbol, and then this underscore. Another very important rule you have to remember is that the first character of the variable name must not be a digit. So say that you have this variable whose name is actually starting with this character, which is actually starting with a digit. So this is actually an invalid name because the rule here was is that the first character of the variable name must not be a digit. And now in here, what I'm actually doing is that I'm actually creating a variable whose first character is a digit. So Python, if you just try to print out this variable name, Python will actually throw an error saying that this is actually an invalid name because the first character of this variable name is a digit. So you have to remove this digit and then place it somewhere else. Like for example, it could come after n and then 1 and a and e, but it should not be the first character of the variable name. And another very important rule you have to remember is that there are some reserved words in Python. Now we cannot use these reserved words as the names of the variables. So these are some of the reserved words in Python: def, return, pass. There are like many others, but I know you don't know about these reserved words as of now, but later on in this course, you will know that these are all the reserved words. And now we cannot use these reserved words as the name of the variables. Okay, so yeah, that's all we need to understand about variables. And yeah, now we will be implementing variables in Python.
Okay, so now let's just play with variables in Python. So the first thing we will do is that we will declare and assign a variable. So say that I will have a variable and I will just name this variable as name. You can just name it anything you want, and I'll put it equal to a string value and say that it will be equal to Alice. And now what I can do is that I can actually print out basically this variable. So now what Python will do is that it will print out the value of this variable, which is Alice, on the console screen. So now let me just execute this whole code, and you will just see that we are actually seeing the value of this variable name, which is Alice. Okay, now similarly, say that I will have another variable age and say that its value will be equal to 20. And now in here, instead of just printing out the name, we can actually print out the age as well. So now Python again will actually print out the value of this variable age, which is 20. Okay, so you can actually print out both of them on the console screen as well. So in here, first of all, say that we'll just print out the name, and then we'll actually printing out the age. So now let me just execute this whole code. And first of all, you are just seeing the value of the first variable, which is Alice, and then the value of the second variable, which is age, because Python codes are executed from top to the bottom. So first of all, it will just see this print statement, and in this print statement, we'll actually printing out this variable name. So what it will do is that it will actually print out the value of this variable name, which is Alice, and then the value of this variable age, which is 20. So if I just basically put this line of code above this print statement, so what now it will do is that it will actually first of all print out the age and then the name. So now let me just execute this whole code. And now you're just seeing, first of all, we're actually printing out the age and then the name, because in here it first of all sees this print statement and then this print statement. Okay, so in here you will see that we are actually using two print statements to print out these two variables. But what you can do is that you can actually print out both of these variables on a single line using one print statement like this. So first of all, say that I will just first of all print out the name, and now in order to print out the other variable using the same print statement, you can actually put this comma and then this variable age. And now what Python will do is that it will print out both of these variables in a single line. So first of all, we have Alice, and then we have a space in between them, and then we have the value of another variable 20. Okay, so in here you will see that we have two variables declared on two different lines, but what we can do is that we can actually create multiple variables in a single line as well. So let's just have an example of it as well. So say that we have three variables. The first one is x, and now in order to create another variable on the same line, I can actually basically put this comma and then basically create another variable, say that it will be y, and then another variable, and I will just separate it out from these two variables using comma and then z. And now what I can actually use equal, and now in here I can actually print, basically assign values to these three variables. So the first value will be equal to the value of this variable name x, the second value will be equal to the variable name of y, and then the third value will be equal to the value of this variable z. So say that it will be 10 for x, 20 for y, and then 30 for z. So in here we have created three variables in a single line. So the first variable will get the first value, which is 10. The second variable will get the second value, which is 20. The third variable will get the third value, which is 13. So now right in here, we just print out y, so it will actually print out the second value, which is 20, because y has been given this value of 20. So now let me just execute this whole code, and you're going to see that we're actually seeing 20 on the console screen. Okay, so now right in here, just print out z. It is going to print out the value of z, which is 30, and now similarly just print out x, which is going to see this value 10. All right, so this is how we can actually assign multiple variables in a single line. Okay, now variables can be reassigned as well. Variables can be reassigned with different values. Like for example, say that, let's get rid of this whole thing, yeah, right in here, and say that I have this variable x, which I will just give it a value of 10. And now say that at some other point in my code, I just want to reassign the value of x to some different value. So what I can do is that I will just say that x will now be equal to, say that, a string, which will say that Alice. Okay, so now just print out x. So let me just execute this whole code. In here, you're actually seeing Alice and not this 10, because first of all, Python will just see this line of code in which I have assigned basically assigned this variable a value of 10, and then Python will just see this line of code. So it is actually the same variable that we are using right in here. So now Python previously has stored 10, and now what Python will do is that it will now actually reassign basically this variable a value of Alice. So the latest value of x is Alice, so it's going to print out the latest or the most updated value of the variable, which in this case is Alice. So that is why in here we are actually seeing Alice on the console screen. Okay, so now let me talk about variable concatenation. So you can concatenate variables of the same type. Like for example, in here, say that I have two variable first name. So first name is going to be equal to John, and then the last name is just going to be equal to Snow. So just John Snow, and now say that I will have another variable which is full name, which is just going to be equal to basically my first name and last name. So right in here is going to be equal to first name, and then in order to, since we are actually concatenating both of these variables, so in order to concatenate it, we'll just use this plus operator, which will actually concatenate both of these variables, and then we're actually storing in this variable full name. So right in here is going to be this last name. Okay, so now I just print out my full name. In here, you will just see basically this full name, which is John Snow. So first of all, we have first name and then plus last name. So first name is John, and then we have concatenated the first name with the last name, Snow. So now the full name will be equal to John Snow. Okay, so now in here, you might have noticed that there should be a gap in between the first and last name. So what you can do is that you can just say that John plus basically this space, and then this thing. So now we're actually concatenating three things, or you can just say three strings. So the first string is equal to John, and then the second string is equal to this space, and then the third variable is actually the string, which is Snow. So John and then space and then Snow. So now let me just execute this whole code, and then now in here you will see that you're actually seeing John So on the console window. Okay, so right in here, let me just have one more example, actually two more examples. So say that we have a variable x and we're just storing 10 inside of it. So now what I can do is that, say that I will just create another variable and I just want to give it a value of x. So what I can do is just say that now y will be equal to x. So now what Python will do is that it will actually create this variable y, and then since we are putting it equal to x, so what Python will do is that it will actually assign y a value of x, which is 10. So now I just print out y, so it will now actually give me this value, which is 10, because y is actually equal to 10. So now let me just execute this whole code, and you will see that we're actually seeing 10 on the console window. Now similarly, if it contains some kind of string, like for example, hey, this is me, and now y is actually equal to x, so x is equal to this string, so now y will also be equal to the value of x, which is, hey, this is me. So now I just print out y, you will see that we're actually seeing this thing, because y is equal to x and x contains this thing, hey, this is me. Okay, so this is how we can actually put one variable to another variable. And now one last thing I'm going to be talking about in this video is about swapping variables. So say that in here we will have two variables, x equal to 5 and then y equal to 10. Okay, so now in here say that I just want to swap their values, like for example I just want to put x equal to y and now y equal to x. So you can actually do it in Python really simply. Just say that xy is now just equal to y x. So remember previously we have talked about how we can actually create multiple variables in a single line. So previously we were just doing it something like this. So we were just having x, y and then z, which were equal to 10, 20 and 30. So x was getting the value of 10, y was getting the value of 20 and then z was getting the value of 13. But now in here we have basically these two multiple variables. We have these two multiple variables in a single line, but now actually reassigning their values, like for example now x will be equal to y because the first variable is equal to the first value. So in this case the x has now been reassigned a value of y, so y is now equal to 10, so now x will be equal to 10 and now y will be equal to the second value which is actually x, so now x is equal to 5, so now y will also be equal to x, or y will also be equal to 5. Okay, so now in here you just print out, so let me just add these two prints right in here. So in here it will be xy. Before I have swapped their values, and now I'm just going to reassign. In here now I have reassigned their values and I'll just print out both of these variables x and y. Okay, so now let me just execute this whole code. So say that see that previously it was 5 10 because in here we have 5 and then here we have 10. Let's get rid of this line of code. So we're actually printing out this thing x and y. So x was equal to 5 and y was equal to 10. And now in here we have reassigned it a value. So that is why on the next print statement, which is going to see basically the swap values, which is 10 and 5. So I hope it is making sense. And yep, this is what I just want to talk about variables in Python in this video. Alright, so now I'm going to be talking about variable interpolation. So say that we have two variables, name equal to say that Taylor, and then we have our age, which is say that 25 years old. Okay, so now I just want to print out basically this name and age. So I'm just going to say print and say that I just want to print it out something like this. Like for example, my name is basically this name, this variable name. So I'm just going to print out name and I am this years old. So I'm just going to say that this variable age years old. Okay, so now just try to execute this whole code. And here you will see that it's just saying that my name is name. That is, instead of just printing out this Taylor, it is actually not printing out the value. It is instead of just printing out this thing, which is name. And then it's saying that, and I am 8 years old. So instead of just printing out the value of age, it's just saying that I am 8 years old. That is actually not rendering these two variables, name and age. And that is because it is actually inside of this simple string. So whatever we have inside of the simple string will not be rendered, whatever variables that we have, it will not be rendered inside of this simple string. For this, we have to use a special type of string, which is an f string. So right in here, in order to use f string, in here we will just put this f, and then in here, whatever variable we want to render, we have to basically put them inside of these two curly brackets. So in this case, we just want to basically render this variable name. So right in here, I just have to put it inside of these two curly brackets, and now I just want to render this variable as well. So I'm just going to put it inside of this variable inside of these curly brackets as well. And now Python knows that, okay, I have to provide the value of these two variables and not the variable itself. So now let me just execute this whole code, and this time it will just say that my name is basically Taylor, which is actually this variable, this thing, and then I am 25 years old. So I am basically the value of this variable, which is 25 years old. Okay, so in here we have this name here as well. So just put this thing inside of these two curly brackets. So it will now render basically the value of this variable name here as well. So now let me just execute this whole code, and it's just saying that my Taylor is Taylor and I am 25 years old. Okay, so we do not want to basically we just don't want to render this thing. We just want to render these variables here and then here. So now let me just execute this whole code. And now you can just see that we have my name is Taylor and I am 25 years old. Okay, so this is how we can actually render variables using an f string.